Hello and welcome back to our most explosive lowdown yet. Today we are playing the role of Thomas Tuchel, picking his 23-man World Cup squad. Here are some of the best bits.
Well, I would start Ben White in this England team.
Over Trent?
Yeah.
Did Foden make your squad?
No.
Not at all.
No. Rodgers has to be in this squad. He has to be in this squad.
You've got
Another
three
wild
wild
card.
cards
Yeah,
in
he's
the
got
forward
three wild
line.
I'm a wild
That's
man.
crazy.
Hello and welcome back to the lowdown, everybody. And joining myself and Mikey McCubbin today, we've got Mr. Sam Abasaki in the building.
Come on.
How are we doing, Oba?
I'm good, man. I'm good. Happy to be here. I feel like I ain't seen you
Take
guys
a break
in
from
ages.
Chelsea.
Yeah, I don't need a break, man. I love my club. You man know. You man know.
Good response.
I like the fact that you.
Ups and
I like the fact that you kicked off the clap for yourself there as well.
No, because you know
Yeah.
when you say Obasic, I'm like, hey. You know what I mean? You just feel like you have to do a cheer, but yeah, no, it's good to be here.
It's great to have you on board. Guys, today we're about to win the World Cup for England.
Come
we're
on, man.
choosing Thomas Tuchel's
coming home.
World Cup squad. But we have added a crucial thing to mention, Mikey. We've gone 23-man.
23-man, yeah. So I do think, sit in the kind of post-COVID era of there being 26-man squads at tournaments, it's always been a bit too easy to pick a squad. But also, this actually is a possibility, right? So 2022 World Cup, they allowed 26-man squads. I think partly because it's midway through the season. They said COVID, post-COVID, hangover as well. But the following summer, the 2023 Women's World Cup in Australia, they did not allow. It was a 23 women's squad. So by that logic, I could imagine that it will go back to 23-man at the 2026 World Cup. Of course, Euro 2024, they kept it as 26, but that's UEFA, not FIFA. So yeah, I think there's a strong possibility that it will be 23 that Thomas Tuchel has to choose from.
I don't think that's necessarily a disaster as well. There's always a few too many spare men in a 26-man squad.
Your Connor Codys.
Your Connor
No, but I
Codys,
feel like
your
those
tourists.
No, but those players are good for morale.
They are
though.
good for
Yeah.
morale.
Good for
That's the
morale.
thing.
But
yeah.
we're not picking on morale here. We're picking on quality.
Yeah,
And
picking
let's
on
kick
winning.
off
No.
with our goalkeepers. So we've all had a think about our squads. Oba's going to have ultimate say. We're trying to impress Mr. Tuchel over here.
Come on.
Mikey, why don't you kick off with your three goalkeepers?
Three goalkeepers.
I'll go through mine. Let's see if there's any differences.
Yeah, I think this is pretty simple. And also, aside from the top two, I don't think there needs to be that much debate, really. I've gone for Jordan Pickford as my number one. I'll probably get on to Pickford and the other kind of ever present in this England side since 2018 in a bit. But yeah, Jordan Pickford number one. I think he's had another pretty good season at Everton. Dean Henderson had an excellent year at Palace, hasn't he? And Aaron Ramsdale's my number three. I don't know whether we might differ on
I
that
didn't
one.
have Ramsdale. I had Trafford.
Okay,
I had
interesting.
Trafford.
What? No Nick Pope.
No, Nick Pope. I think Nick Pope's kind of been out of the setup for a little while, it feels like. And I just think the third keeper, I think Dean Henderson for me has to be the number two. And then the third keeper, I think, actually does need to be a bit of a morale guy. And Aaron Ramsdale is that guy. I think he was a really positive influence in the last camp at Euro 2024, talking about how his relationship with Pickford and how he was essentially kind of happy to be there. I think I do think if, especially with the goalkeepers, I think that third goalkeeper needs to be happy to be there. And I think Aaron Ramsdale
I think we
is
need
that
to
guy.
look to the future, though. This is why I was going Trafford.
Having a
Henderson,
great
28 years old now. Pickford's in his 30s.
Is Henderson 28
Yeah,
already?
it's crazy how time has gone on.
Yeah.
And I think James Trafford, yes, he struggled massively last year in the Premier League with Burnley. But since Burnley went back down, their defence has been absolutely
impeccable,
insane.
bro.
He's kept 26 clean sheets in 37 games this
They've already
season.
broke the record, haven't they?
It's
Championship clean sheets.
absolutely remarkable. He's prevented over 10 XG, which would be more than anyone else in Europe's top five leagues. Of course, the Championship is not a European top five league, but he's had an amazing season. And at the moment, in a few positions, and we'll talk about maybe striker in due course as well, I think there is a paucity of options in that kind of mid-20s age. So getting in Trafford to get the experience of being third choice, see what a tournament is like, and then hopefully build to be future England number one eventually. I think it made more sense than Ramsdale, who for me has struggled at Southampton a bit. Because Ramsdale made a big call going to Southampton, and it's probably not really worked in his favour, and it might be a year outside the Premier League. We'll see.
Yeah, I don't know though, because I feel like with Ramsdale, he got what he wanted from the move. Obviously, he didn't want Southampton at the time of recording, they haven't, gone down, but it's not looking.
Yeah, it's happening.
It's looking like it's going to happen. But he wanted to play football, and he wanted to prove that he can still be a top keeper to a certain extent. And yes, there's been certain games where we could say, Ramsdale could have done better here and could have done better there. But there's also been games where okay, he's showing glimpses of the quality that we saw and why Arsenal signed him in the first place. And that's what he kind of wanted. He's never really going to be the first goalkeeper because Pickford is still consistent at his level. So I think Ramsdale deserves a shot. And I hear what you're saying about a keeper that's been in and around it, that doesn't mind being in and around it. But I also like Pope, though. I think Pope is like a shot stopper that none of them really are. I think he gives something different. The only thing that I would that works against him is the ability on the ball.
Yeah.
And I think Tuchel, the way he plays, he doesn't necessarily rely on the keeper, but modern football, your keeper needs to be able to kick ball in it. So,
but would you still have Pickford as number one?
100%.
So I don't really see the point in picking Pope then, who's not one for the future and probably can't play the style that Tuchel would want to play. Yes, he's an amazing shot stopper, and look, if it came off to a one-off knockout game, maybe you would want Pope in there over Henderson, for example. But I just think it makes more sense to have the guy who's been in the best Premier League form aside from Pickford, which for me is Henderson, and then the guy for the future. So, I mean, guys, we need to settle.
Yeah, I mean, I'm actually happy. I'm happy to concede on the basis that by the summer of 2026, James Trafford possibly will have had another year in the Premier League with Burnley, and Ramsdale. I agree with you, Dukes. No matter how he's performed this season, that move to Southampton has hamstrung him, because I don't think anyone's going to come in and pay what Southampton will want for him in the summer. I do think Ramsdale will have been back in the Championship for a year. Like, Southampton will want more than £30 million for Ramsdale. I just don't know which Premier League club pays that. I don't know which Premier League club needs a goalkeeper that much. Who couldn't get a goalkeeper similar to his level for a lower price.
There was always talk about Newcastle, wasn't there? But I think Newcastle will eventually look to sign a number one. But again, the thing against Pope is I don't think they've had a massive drop-off this season with Dubravka in goal, who I think has been fairly solid. Yeah. There's also speculation about Wolves as well. Maybe he gets a move to Wolves, but again, that's another sort of struggling Premier League club with financial issues. Are they going to get dramatically better?
It's just a lot of money for him. I just would be looking elsewhere. But yeah, I'm happy to concede Trafford, and then
I think Trafford deserves a shout.
Then that puts the pressure on, for you to pick someone in my favour. I'm conceding early. It's a meaningless one.
It's playing the long game.
The third goalkeeper position, who cares?
Happy. Okay, Pickford, Henderson, Trafford are in. That's fair, are we picking each two right backs? I think that's Because I've got how many defenders have I got? I've got 8 defenders in this 23-man squad.
I think I've got. Wow. I've only got 7 actually.
I've got 7 as well.
I've only got 7.
Dicing with 3 centre-backs, I assume.
Yeah.
Or maybe there's someone versatile in there. Let's see. Yeah. Okay, who would be your right-backs, Mikey?
Okay, so I've gone for... Drum roll, please. I've got... Because this is a contentious one, because there are so many good right-backs out there. But I've gone for Ben White. And I've gone for Trent Alexander-Arnold. Reece James. Yeah. Oh, really? Okay, Reece James just missed out. I think Reece James in a year's time, hopefully, will be back towards his best, but just right now it's hard to take a chance at him. And I think Ben White really deserves I would start Ben White in this England team for reasons.
Over Trent?
Yeah, I think partly because of his relationship with Saka. If we have a fully fit Ben White available next summer,
talking about chemistry,
then I think it's about. I've thought a lot about chemistry in this England side, and I think Ben White and Saka, such a good combination. I think obviously Trent is, a more specialist right back than Ben White, but that's not even a more specialist right back. He's a more unique player, but that's always counted against Trent, hasn't it? Like 33 caps Trent has had. He's going to be 27 by the time this tournament starts. He's had 33 caps, which is the same as Ross Barkley. It's fewer than Adam Lallana. It's ridiculous.
That's not down to him though. That's just been. It's unfortunate that Kyle Walker's
and Trippier.
And Trippier, yeah, it is unfortunate. The reason why Kyle Walker got has maintained his position for so long is because he is just a more classic right back. He just fits in. He could just fit in any system, because it's just like he just kind of does what a right back does, whereas Trent is harder to pin down. Like Liverpool have been set up around Trent almost. They were almost built around him under Klopp, and England have never been able to do that really. So that's what's always counted against him, and that's why I would have Ben White over him. I think he's a safer shout.
I think they've shied away from that though. I think that they should have been braver and played Trent, because if you've got a right back with that amount of quality on the ball, you can work a way around it, especially with the CDMs that we have and the centre-backs that we have. I think he's been unfortunate to not get the minutes that he kind of deserved for what he was doing for Liverpool. And like you said, they were able to kind of make it work for Liverpool, for them to win the Premier League, Champions League, get to how many finals in the last few years. So for him not to really get minutes, it's harsh, man. And I think he deserves the opportunity to start at a major tournament, even in the amount of games that he got after Southgate left. And we saw the impact he had. You can't take that away from him. Yes, we can say the relationship that Ben White and Saka has got at Arsenal is great, but there is no right back in the world that does what Trent does. And we have to use, for Tuchel to win what he needs to win for England, you have to use what other nations don't have. And Trent is one of those
I agree.
tools.
I don't think you can be scared of his slight deficiencies. Sometimes he doesn't have the best defensive games. I don't think he's as bad a defender as people make out.
Facts,
it's over-exaggerated for sure. He's not very good in the air. But as Oliver says, there is... When you've got something so unique, it has to be used. And I think Trent has been really unfortunate that the only major tournament he's actually started in was Euro 2024, and he was playing in midfield. And he played 2 games. Then he got dropped for Conor Gallagher. He scored that penalty against Switzerland, but he's never really had a run in his favoured position. And Southgate tried to fix it by, he used to play in midfield, let's put him in there, which I just think was slightly flawed logic. Yeah. And you also look at what Tuchel got out of, albeit in a different system to what I expect him to play, but what he got out of Reece James at his best as well.
So why is Reece James not in any of your list, lads?
You just can't.
Because unfortunately, the list that I've got, obviously I know that I'm kind of picking between both, but I've made a list, yeah. And Reece James was one of the first names because of the fact of his relationship with Thomas Tuchel. And it seems like, yes, it's in the last few weeks, but I feel like Maresca's the type of manager that won't try to overexert him after what he's been through in the last few years due to injury. And I think if he's able to stay consistent, there's no way Reece James doesn't go to any major tournament for England, because he's played under the manager. He's been one of the best players in his position under the manager. So why is he not on your list, like?
He's not on our list because he hasn't put together 5 games in about 3 years. It is almost impossible to pick Reece James.
There's always risks in all of these teams, yeah.
Not in a 23-man squad. I'm not taking someone that can't last 90 minutes.
There's always risks, and Reece James has to be one of those, because like he's not.
So no Ben White.
He's not unique. I would
also Reece James is best.
Add another defender to have Ben White, Reece James, and Trent.
But then that's just a pointless.
I don't think it is
White can play at centre back.
But no, because White can play centre back. Reece James can play in the back 3. He can play CDM as well if needed. He can play wing back. They both of them can play in multiple positions. So I think it's fair for them to take that risk, because like a Trent, it's not to that extent, because Trent going forward is incredible. But Reece James is also a unicorn, bro. What he can do on, like, obviously we all say we haven't seen enough of it, but on his day, going attacking and
when
defensively.
Was his last day? 2022.
But he's getting there, bro. He's getting there. And
I'd love him. I'd love him to get back to his best. I actually thought he was phenomenal. He was probably the most complete right back in the Premier League at that time. But we just haven't seen enough of it. We haven't. But it'd be so gutted. And I wanted to pick 2 right backs, and Ben White, I think, has been unfortunate not to be used more by England. I can really see him doing a job at international level. We've just talked about how special Trent is. Reece James for me was the logical one to blue.
And Ben White's not in the mix yet, man. He's good.
Yeah, but I want to see what he can do. It's something that something that we have missed, is like not seeing what Ben White could be like in the system with Saka. I'm also thinking with this, like Thomas Tuchel, I expect to play a 4-2-3-1 or a 4-3-3. Like, I know he excelled with a 3 at the back system at Chelsea, but I don't think this squad is cut out for that. Like, I don't want to see.
I don't really have good enough centre backs for what.
And also, I want to see the wingers be wingers. Like, if the squad was a different makeup of squad, and I expected him to go with the back 3, then I'd be more tempted with Reece James as well, just because he was so good as a wing back under him.
He also was a 4 at the back at PSG. He was a 4 at the
back
at
everywhere
Dortmund.
else
he's a 4 back at the Bayern. He just saw Chelsea's squad was perfect for it.
Yeah. Had N'Golo Kante.
He's not really a 3 in the back manager, which people have been making out constantly. Okay, we do need a decision on the right backs, though.
So have I been overruled, or what? Is it a thing that, like...
Well, I think we gave you ultimate say, but I'm really regretting it.
No, I want all 3 of them, but because you both agreed on having both of them, we could say Trent and
okay, well, let's see whether we can fit him in.
See if James
see what happens.
Okay, left backs I think is much simpler.
So far we've got 5 positions taken. Let's just note that down.
So we've
otherwise
got
we could
Pickford,
start going.
Henderson, Trafford, Trent, White.
Why don't you kick off, Dukes?
I think it's fairly easy these days. Unfortunately, with the injury issues of Shaw and Chilwell, etc., we need to look to the new generation. I don't think Tyreek Mitchell's ever quite there. I think it's got to be Lewis Hall and Mars Lewis-Skelly.
Yeah.
I'm totally we've gone exactly the same.
Same.
Yeah.
Same.
Excellent. I think the one
who
thing
starts, though?
I'd say Lewis Hall, I think.
Yeah.
At the moment, I think Lewis-Skelly might not end up being a left back, but I do really like his game.
But that's the thing with Lewis-Skelly. Like in a year's time, he could be a left back centre midfield option, which could be. I mean, I don't know. I've got quite a lot of central midfielders in here, so maybe it's a bit useless. But nevertheless,
the one thing I'd say, obviously, he got a really unfortunate red card. The other one was quite rash. No one in the Premier League's got more red cards than Lewis-Skelly this season, which is kind of crazy.
I like that about him, though, man.
He's only been playing.
He's so young.
He's only been
so
playing
young,
for like
but
4
he's
months.
so on it, man. He's so on it. And even the second one, you could say it, fair enough. Like when you look at the challenge on Kudus, it was a bad challenge, but Kudus fouled him beforehand though.
Yep.
Yeah.
And they didn't like.
He's
play
also
that
had to
back,
deal with like people making ridiculous statements about how he shouldn't react and recreate Haaland's celebration. Like, grow up.
I like that. Yeah,
Absolutely
that's
mental.
great.
I love his
Absolutely
energy,
mental.
man.
And then I think Hall, it's such a shame he's not injured. Sorry, it's such a shame he's not available for this camp because
man.
he's the
would've
best
been
left back so far in the Premier League, I'd say, this season. I mean, there's, well, aside from maybe Anthony Robinson, but I think he's been brilliant, really solid all-round game, has worked at Chelsea as well at that time as well, which might be quite crucial. So we're all in agreement on the left backs.
Also, Anthony got I don't know. Anthony Gordon is going to be my starting left winger in this Tuchel setup. And again, so if we have Newcastle down the left and Arsenal down the right, I think that bodes really well. That's what England have really struggled with in the past. That's what they really struggled with, and I think that was partly Southgate's fault for his tactical setup at the Euros last year. Who was it who was playing? Oh, was it Trippier playing at left back a lot of the time?
Yeah.
And it was just like it was tough. Obviously, because Lewis Hall wasn't quite where he was at this time last year. I think like Leif Davis was probably the only viable option, and he wasn't considered. So yeah, I kind of feel for him that way. But having those connections, I think could be really transformative.
I hear that.
Okay, but why don't you start with your centre backs?
Okay, centre backs: Levi Colwill, Harry Maguire, and Mark Gahey. I've only gone 3 centre backs because
you don't have John Stones in there.
He had Ben White.
Ben White. But John Stones, I think, I love John Stones. I think he's one of the best centre backs this country's ever produced. Yeah, but I think I struggle to see. It's similar to what you say about Reece James. Yeah, and I understand it. And it's so hard for me because I don't want to do that. I actually love John Stones. I think he's one of my favourite centre backs.
He does have a body of work at England level compared to Reece James, though.
Yeah, he does. And I was thinking about that. But in terms of his injuries, is a big factor for me. And I don't know what it's going to look like going into next season, how he's going to look at City, whether he's still going to be at City, whether they're going to fully change the old guard and flip it on his head. But he's played a lot of football in the last few years, and he's been a part of a team that have gone to the end of the season in all the finals and last day of the season. I think it's just going to catch up to him by the time we get to
he has played 26 tournament games in a row though. Like him and Pickford hold the record in England history. He started every single game since that 2-1 win over Tunisia. So the last England tournament game that John Stones didn't play at, because I think he was on the bench that whole tournament, was the 2-1 against the Iceland game in 2016. Like he has just been there the whole way through, and if he's injured at the end of the next season, obviously don't take him. Yeah. But so far he has a clean bill of health at tournaments for England somehow, because it's like he's injured almost every season, and somehow he gets fit for the tournaments. He's not as influential as he once was, I don't think, but I had to have him in there. I had him over Maguire. I think this is the tournament that we finally move on from Harry Maguire, sadly. Okay. I think partly because Mark Gahey stepped in his place and did such a good job at the Euros last year. I think for me, I kind of go with that trust. I know we're playing under a new manager now, but I think that there's something in that familiarity, that thing that's already been built there. I think Stones and Gahey should be first choice. And then I went for Jared Branthwaite as the backup to Gahey, and I've got to have Ben White as the backup to John Stones.
So no Levi Colwill.
I really like Levi Colwill, and maybe there's an argument that he could make this squad ahead of Lewis-Skelly maybe as the left back, centre back option, ahead of Branthwaite as well. I just think I like where Branthwaite's at in his career, and also basically what swung it for Branthwaite is that he's just bigger, and he just if you want someone who can give you that Harry Maguire option if needs be, of being a threat in both boxes, then Branthwaite is more that guy than Colwill, where Colwill is I think probably a better ball playing centre back, but doesn't offer, but isn't that much better as a ball playing centre back than as Branthwaite is as a physical presence in the box, I would say.
I mean, where are Chelsea fans at with Levi Colwill? Because I think he's had some brilliant games this season. I also think he's had some really poor games this season. He's still obviously a developing talent, but where are Chelsea fans at?
And that's it. Like, he's still a developing talent. Like, and I think because we're in a generation of star boys and like generational talents, everyone thinks that all of these players that show 1 year of like greatness they just constantly like get up. But you have to realize, like, a lot of these players, it can change depending on their circumstance. Like, his first season under Pochettino, he was playing left back majority of the time, centre back sometimes. They were playing rock and roll football back to front. He was playing with different centre back partners all the time. This season, he created a really good partnership with Fofana to start the season, was doing so well. Then Fofana got injured, so his role had to change a little bit. Then obviously, like, that can affect a player. Like, do you know what I mean? So for me, I love Cole. I think he's one of the best like centre backs at his age in the league. Yeah, but I also understand people being frustrated because of the level that they put him at. But just be patient. It's like with a lot of these players that are under the age of 24. Like, you can't expect them to be great every single week. Yes, you can hope that they have a standard every week and be upset to a certain extent, but don't just like vilify them and then like crop all of the little bits that they do wrong in the games rather than the things that they do well. It's just like it doesn't make sense.
I do totally agree.
That's online fan base. It's nuts, isn't it?
But it's just. But I do think that there has been a bit of a weird narrative around Colwill in general. Like, I've heard it a little bit recently, like being like, people are like, oh yeah, I just don't really see it with Colwill. I thought he was good. It's like, how he's still only 21, right?
I think he's let me just
is he 22? Okay, but only recently turned 22. Either way, he's 22. Okay, but like, it's just like, when have you ever seen that with you know? I know William Saliba is the kind of standard of a young defender, but like, you know, Virgil van Dijk at 22, you know, wasn't, you know, was barely, you know, I mean, he even, I think he was still at Celtic at that point. Van Dijk
famously, he said that about Saliba last week. He's way ahead of where I was.
I think people forget that, like, you don't have to, you know, you're not seeing spectacular things from centre backs at that age. Like, you never are. Like, and that's, I mean, and maybe that's partly why he hasn't made my squad, because I just know that he will get into future squads, and it's not, you know, 23, you don't have to get in. Branthwaite, I think, will be 24, so he's a little bit older, and that's around the time that someone like Harry Maguire got into the England squad. So I feel like there is time for him, but I also see the argument for him as well. And if Chelsea get into the Champions League this year, then he'll have a full year of Champions League experience under his belt, and that would probably swing it. You know, if he has a good season in the Champions League next year,
need to get there first for sure.
What have you gone for, Dukes?
Colwill made my squad. He's not starting, but he made my squad. I just think there is a future. There's a future really, really solid Premier League player in there, like one of the best in his position. Already at the moment, I think it's second for passes completed in the entire Premier League behind Van Dijk. But whereas Van Dijk is first for passes into the final third, Colwill's 17. So he's a little bit safer on the ball, but there is a real good ball playing centre half there as well. I still think he's slightly getting used to his body as well. There's sometimes it's a little bit uncomfortable. I didn't like that goal at Brighton where he didn't get off the ground. But as Obba says, these things happen. Let's not get into it too much. But my four centre backs, well, in a dream world, I'd have John Stones starting, fully fit John Stones. As Obba kind of said earlier, I don't think there's been a centre-back for England that has played this well this century. Look, Rio Ferdinand and Terry are better centre-backs than John Stones, but in terms of England performances, John Stones was
might be the best since Bobby Moore.
He's pretty much flawless for four tournaments in a row. Yeah. It was honestly insane. And I wanted to take a risk, you could even call it, with one of Maguire and Stones due to their experience level. And at the moment, I think Stones is ahead of Maguire for sure. So I'm starting John Stones alongside Mark Gehi, who I actually thought, I mean, it's kind of gone under the radar just how good his Euros was. He was England's best player.
Yeah, easily.
It was comfortable. And to go into your first international tournament, in a tournament you weren't really expected to start and shine in, and pull out that level of performance, I think is really pretty special as well. And then he's absolutely imperative to a Palace side that are one of the form teams in the entirety of Europe. They've only lost 3 of their last 17 games. And whereas Colwill or Branthwaite seem to have, one's a great passer or one's got a bit more physicality. I think Gehi can do both. And really, really impressively.
Also a leader as well.
Great leader. So he'd be my starting left-sided centre-back, Colwell as the backup, and then I picked Ezri Konsa as my final fourth centre-back. But I do also have Ben White in there. So maybe that is the most unnecessary, but I like the fact that Konsa just doesn't make mistakes, or at least doesn't make high-profile mistakes in the same way as some of the other centre-backs that are in this conversation for sure. And again, this is a guy that made his competitive debut in a last 16 of the Euros for England.
I think it was the quarterfinals against Switzerland.
Well, then he played in the last 16 off the bench.
Okay,
then he had to start. His first ever start was in the Euros quarterfinal.
Crazy.
And again, contrast to these players as well. Never injured. He's missed 8 games in the last 2 seasons. And his 80% tackle success rate this year is second only to Jean-Claire Todibo in the entire Premier League. And it was the same last year with Ariel Jules. Like, the guy is very, very good at defending and can play it right back as well. And I think Villa fans would be really, really angry, as I noticed last week when I didn't have him in my initial squad, if we didn't include him.
Villa fans on Twitter are... They're
no, but Konsa's quality, man. And like you said, he's like ever-present. Just a surety, like at the back. You just know what you're going to get. You know that he doesn't necessarily make mistakes. I just don't know if he, out of all the players that we've mentioned, I just don't think he makes it in a
23-man squad.
Yeah, in a 23-man squad.
Okay, who do we all agree in? Mark Gehi?
Mark Gehi, 100%.
I think
Stones for sure.
Stones.
Like the injuries, the only reason I kind of like not regret it, but I'm thinking of him now in it, like, and just the injuries are just affecting him back to back. So it was hard for me to see that. But like you said, the fact that his record is that clean, Stones has to be there.
And then we're choosing between Colwell, Konsa, and kind of White, really, I suppose. Whether we're taking
Branthwaite.
And Branthwaite.
No. I think you've got the two. You've got Gehi and Stones.
Gehi and
I think I'm happy to concede Colwell as you both had him, and I think you made good arguments for him.
So Ben White is the backup right-sided centre back behind Stones.
As well as the right back. Yeah.
I'm going with 7 defenders.
But like if we feel like the midfield is too bloated, then maybe we go for.
We'll come back to the defending area.
I think let's see what you guys have. I mean,
how many midfielders did you pick?
This is where I'm a little bit bloated. Central midfield is quite stacked, and it's partly because there's one player who I think just has been overlooked for too long. Is actually in the most recent England squad, but has been overlooked a lot. Am I going to lead
Why
with
don't you
him?
reveal
You
it?
have to.
I mean, before all my...
That's such a great build-up.
I'm feeling nervous.
I just think Curtis Jones. I think Curtis
He was in mine
Jones.
as well.
Yeah, is he in yours as well? Okay, that is interesting because I think he is potentially a spare part, but I think I was looking at it like he's played over 1,000 league minutes for Liverpool every season since 2020-21. Like, he has been a real asset to a very a Liverpool team, which for a lot of that time has been one of the best teams in Europe.
Never a consistent
starter, but I would say a pretty consistent difference maker, even when he comes off the bench. You know, we saw.
Do you think that's an easier job though? I think it's an easier job to, because I know what you mean.
But I think well, it is potentially an easier job, but that's it's quite a useful job to be able to do at a major tournament. That would be my argument.
It's a slower style in often international football as well, and this guy's a guy that can retain the ball amazingly well. And I think this year he's added in a lot of games like great box crashing as well and popping up with crucial goals and assists. I picked 6 midfielders. I think we'll probably all have the same.
Is that including
3.
like attacking?
Okay,
so I went with Bellingham, Palmer,
Yeah.
Rice.
Yeah.
Nailed on. I'd be amazed if either of you guys mixed them out.
Yeah.
Then my next 3 were Wharton, Jones, and Foden.
Wow. Okay.
So I didn't pick Morgan Rogers.
Whoa.
Yeah, no.
I didn't pick Eze. I didn't pick Henderson, and I didn't pick Mainoo.
I picked
Gallagher.
Gallagher. I didn't actually pick Gallagher. That might be like
What's going on?
I like maybe
you are switching things up completely,
maybe
bro.
you can bring in Gallagher for Jones.
I
think Jones does offer you more control in games, and I just don't know. Yes, Gallagher's a different beast, but I just think this Thomas Tuchel side is going to be a lot more of a game controlling team than Gareth Southgate's team was. But I did put Mainoo in there. I also put Eberechi Eze in there. I think Eberechi Eze in some ways. We'll get onto the forward line in a bit. Eberechi Eze maybe shouldn't be in this midfield section actually for me, because he is basically going to be the backup for Gordon on the left. Eberechi Eze. I've not got another left winger there.
Whoa.
Yeah, I don't.
All right,
I don't.
You don't even need to
Left
start
wing
that
isn't the
conversation
strongest
yet.
position for England. That's the
Okay.
thing. But obviously Bellingham in there. This is where I feel like Jones or Mainoo you could maybe pick between one of those to drop out. But I loved what Mainoo did at Euro 2024.
Yeah.
I think Wharton has to be in there. He has to get a chance. Like I think he has to be. There has to be a game in which we see Rice and Wharton line up alongside each other, because I just want to see what Rice's ball carrying ability and Wharton's passing ability
to speed up play.
as a combination that could be magical. That would then also mean that Bellingham and Palmer are fighting over one spot, and Foden for the number 10 spot, which could be horrible ego wise. But like, I just don't think you can't not pick Palmer, Foden and Bellingham, even though it might be necessary to.
I think Wharton deserves a shout,
yeah.
But you can't. I think what you guys, not that you're doing it, but you're mixing. You're doing too much to a certain extent.
Yeah.
Like
Too much change.
from the last tournament, it wasn't a team that needed that much change. Do you know what I mean? And obviously
they played terribly for most of it,
but we still got to where we got to.
Yeah. I've not changed that much. The only player in these midfielders, like Curtis Jones is the only one who didn't make Euro 2024.
He's not added Kobe. He's not got Eze. No. And for me, one of the most informed midfielders in England is Morgan Rogers, and he deserves a shout to be in this squad.
But then that is a lot of change, though, isn't it? That's even more change if you have Rogers in there.
How many deep lying midfielders do you have? I don't know whether you've covered it. You can't have every number 10.
I've got Declan Rice, Kobe, Conor Gallagher.
So one of them's a deep line midfielder.
So you don't have Wharton.
I don't have Wharton, but Wharton's the one where I'm like, okay, fair enough, he can be in the conversation. But I just don't. My thing is, I don't think that there's gonna be that much change. So even if Wharton's about, he's not gonna play. I'm thinking about like game changers off the bench, for example, because I think the midfield would mainly be a Jude Bellingham, Declan Rice, and Cole Palmer.
Yeah, I would agree.
I want Bellingham to play deeper for England.
Yeah,
and that's what I think.
2022 World Cup. Let's roll it back.
Happen. Exactly, that's what should happen. So I'm not necessarily thinking that a Wharton's going to come into the side, and I think a Kobe's going to come into the side, or Morgan Rogers is going to come into the side.
Despite Mainoo's been injured, but Wharton's comeback since coming back from injury
he's been
for
great.
Palace,
He's been great.
Amazing.
But also, you have to have the XP in these tournaments, and Kobe got that from the last tournament.
Yeah.
So I think now that you've got these players, even Gallagher's been in around these teams. So my thing is, Tuchel's not going to change things too much, because he's the type of manager that comes in and is like, okay, what's worked before? What can I adjust a little bit to make it even better? I don't think he's going to add players because of the fact that they're having great seasons if they don't have the XP. And I don't think that Wharton has that.
I think there was a decent chance that Wharton would, if he hadn't have joined Palace last January and he played a full season at Palace, I think there's a very decent chance that he would have started for England. Such were his performances in the back half of the year.
So,
he was a bolter for the squad, and everyone in the friendlies was like, holy hell, we haven't had this in midfield.
Also, it was a massive mistake as well. Like, I think, I think the two biggest errors selection-wise that Southgate made at that tournament was not giving Gordon more game time. I mean, he barely gave him anything, gave him 1 minute, I think, and didn't give Wharton enough game time. Like, I just wanted to see what balance would have been brought to that. I think Wharton just has to be there as a backup to Rice as well. Like, what if Rice gets injured? We just don't have a six. So I think he has to be there. I don't think it's between him and Kobe really. I think it's more between like Kobe and Gallagher and Joe. Like, I think those are the ones who are going to be fighting for those other spots, because they're not number 10s, but they're not six. They're just kind of useful number 8s.
Yeah. My controversial pick was Jones,
but then also Bellingham is like an 8-10 hybrid as well, and Palmer and so it's like it's almost there's almost too much.
Rogers hurt me a lot, and if it expanded to 26, he was one of my 3 that I was going to bring in.
You have to find, because he's a game changer. If he's not starting, the type of midfielder that
there's a lot of game changers.
Can you have Eze and Rogers?
But on current form, I'd have Rogers, and I don't think Eze's done enough for England to get the XP.
I thought he did a pretty admirable job when called upon at the Euros.
He was good, but I think Rogers would have way more of an impact.
By his standards, Eze's had quite a poor season at Palace, I would say. A lot of shots, not a lot of goals. Like, I think there's been other stars in this Palace side.
Rodgers
Okay,
has
so
to
I mean,
be
we
in the
need
squad.
to agree on some of them. So
Rodgers.
Bellingham, Palmer, Rice.
Yeah.
Yeah, obviously, yeah.
Wharton. Do we
Wharton
all
has to
agree
be
on
in there, yeah.
Okay, then we've got 2 slots. And I think the names that have been mentioned are Jones, Foden, Mainoo, Rodgers, Eze.
We don't necessarily have to have 2 slots. I've picked 7 midfielders here,
Yes,
including Eze.
I only picked 6.
I put 7 as
But then have you got like a backup left wing? Like I'm picking Eze as a
I've
as
got
a backup.
6 forwards as well.
Okay, so let's do 6. We could potentially bring Eze back into the conversation in forwards, I think.
Okay.
Because I've also not got like Foden, although Foden's one of my forwards, he's not one of my midfielders.
Did Foden make your squad?
No.
Not at all.
No.
Wow. Okay, so that's where
That's
it gets
where you make
contentious,
your Rodgers
because
space.
Yeah.
Okay. Wow. What was your thinking?
So it's not even like controversial. I just don't think.
I mean, it's fairly controversial.
Okay. No, it is because of his name and his status. Yeah.
he's a PFA Player of the Year.
Yeah, but in terms of what he's done for England, I cannot say he deserves to just be a guarantee in this squad when all of these players have been performing well for their clubs. Like, majority of them have been performing well for their clubs. I think a conversation needs to be had about his impact and how everyone's tried to fit around him. And I think Foden is incredible. You man see me in the group chat. I've raved about Foden when he's playing well, but for England, he's not. He's not been there. He's not been there. And they've had Saka like left wing back and done things to fit him in his perfect position, and it's just not. He's not done it.
Yeah.
So it was
I think,
to be fair to him, at the World Cup in Qatar. He had a really poor Euros. And look, this season, it's when they've needed him to step up like a peak-age attacking midfielder, PFA Player of the Year, he hasn't done it. He was arguably my 23rd man in this squad. Like, I really am denied about putting him in. But I just thought, with the experience he's got in latter stages of Champions Leagues and latter stages of Premier Leagues, would I rather bring an Eze, a Rodgers, or a Foden off the bench? And I still went with Foden.
I would want a Rodgers because what I've seen from Rodgers in the last 2 years. Yeah, I can see him having that. Like, he's so brave. Like, nothing gets to him. Like, in all of the positions that we've seen in every new stage that he's been on since he's come from the Championship, he's passed every single test. Him in the Champions League, it's like he's been playing it for a couple seasons.
I do agree. It's
like,
very
do you know what I
impressive.
mean? So I think someone like that deserves a shout. When for Foden, this would be like what? How many tournaments has he played in now?
Did he go in 2018?
I think
This
he's played
would be
in
a
3.
four.
He's played in 3 tournaments.
Three tournaments, yeah, and he's really not done anything. Like, and I don't think that's an exaggeration.
No.
Like, so. And it's not a violent. Trust me, all of these lot are quality players. Yeah? But someone that is really good will have to not be in the squad. And I think Foden has to be the sacrifice off of what we've seen from him. For England.
I mean, it's difficult doing this in March 2025, isn't it? Because if he gets back to Foden of last year,
But last year he was the best player in the league.
well, exactly.
And then
but if
look
he gets
what he
back,
done
but if he gets back to that, it still feels like under a manager with probably a better tactical plan, with a happier camp. I think the Southgate final tournament camp didn't sound very happy. I just think
They were playing the traitors for half of it.
I think it's a risk not taking Foden if he is in the form of last year. Again, if this form continues for this season, there's no way you can justify it over some of these young guns we've been talking about. But I still had him in. Did you have him in?
I still had him in, but I agree it's a headache because if you want to play in a 4-2-3-1, if you want to play Foden in his best position, it's the number 10, and Cole Palmer's already
got
there.
to start Cole Palmer.
But then at the same time, if Bellingham is playing deeper, then Foden's just the understudy to him, and what a great understudy to have. Like, I think there's still a place for him there. Morgan Rodgers has had an amazing, well, particularly this season has been amazing. But just the lack of England experience, like he didn't quite feature for me. I still wanted to go with someone like Eze, who's just got a bit more as my backup left winger. Again, the problem being like Morgan Rodgers, like is he going to play on the left for England? I personally wouldn't want him to. I want a proper winger there. Eze, I think, fits the bill as a winger more. And in the centre, like I'd rather have Foden. I would still rather have Foden as the Cole Palmer backup than Morgan Rodgers.
Okay, I've got our fix for this. Yeah. I think we don't quite decide our midfield and attack until we've talked about the attacking
everything.
options.
Cool.
Because that makes much more sense. We've got our defence. We've got our defence locked in.
Yeah.
The attackers. Oba, who are your have-to-goes?
Harry Kane,
Mm-hmm.
Anthony Gordon,
Yep.
Saka,
Yep.
Jared Bowen.
Jared Bowen. Really?
Yeah, those are my four.
He is in the latest squad as well. Although I mean,
Those are
you
my
can't.
four.
You can look into the.
in terms of like backup right wingers.
Not Nwaneri.
I've gone for Nwaneri. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah,
He's
Jared
my
Bowen,
he's
100%.
he's my backup. He's my wild card.
I spoke about him when we were talking about the top 10 young G's, and you were like, oh.
It was a bit early then.
It was a bit early, but I saw
Top 10
it.
young players in the world.
I saw it. Top 10
He
young
scored a
Gs.
goal against Preston.
You know, but I saw it. When you see the talent, you know what I mean? I'm not mad at
you've
that.
seen the talent, but you haven't put him in.
Yeah, no, I'm not putting him. Because Jared Bowen's still performing at top level, do you know what I mean? So it's
I just think let's look ahead and get some players' experience.
Also, we want that Arsenal right-hand side, baby. In a year's time, Ben White will have played a lot of minutes with Nwaneri.
Nwaneri's, that's a good shout.
I also think in a year, Nwaneri will be, if he's on the current trajectory, like he's already got 8 goals and 1 assist for Arsenal at his age. He scored 2 in the Champions League. If that replicates in terms of a similar build-up, he will be, I think, one of the most exciting players in the Premier League if he's not already, and one of the most talked about as well. And look,
but the only problem with that is that if Saka has a complete clean bill of health next year, and so does Ødegaard, then we might be looking at Nwaneri having played like less than 1,000 minutes this season.
I'd still pick him.
Yeah,
I'd still pick him. I feel like the way he's stepped in without Saka in this side is probably what he'd have to do in the Euros, or in the World Cup. Like it's a similar role, isn't it? And he's just kind of taken it on his shoulders, doesn't seem completely fussed about anything. Super impressive technically, amazing dribbler, can score from range.
XP though, like are we not taking that into consideration?
But there's a lot. But that's the thing. I've like having picked the squad that I've picked so far, there is a lot of experience in there. Like this is not a young squad. Like England is not a young squad anymore. Like there aren't many players under the age of 25 in this. Even picking Jared Brandt though, he would be 24 as the tournament went on. Like I think you want to have one completely new, fresh player.
But Morgan Rogers.
Do you think Morgan Rogers? Do you think Morgan Rogers has like more wow factor than Ethan Nwaneri? I don't think so.
It's easier for a winger to have that wow factor because you know what I mean. Like they're trickier. The type of things that they do is like more exciting. But the dominance that Rogers has shown at Aston Villa, if he even slightly replicates that off the bench for England, we're talking about the same type of impact that Palmer had at the Euros. Do you know what I mean?
But I just don't see where he gets the minutes.
But I hear that. But I'd rather him come off the bench. And Ethan, he's still young, man. If you're talking about, you mentioned the Levi Colwill and Bradford thing about ages. Ethan's got many more years. I think for Jared Bowen, you need someone that feels like this is their last tournament. Like this is your last tournament that you're going to play in. You've only got 10 minutes to make it. Even like the Ivan Toney thing that he did at the last Euros. Do you know what I mean? Like these man, they live for these type of moments. And you need that type of player in and around the front line, man. I think Jared has to go, man.
Final comment on Bowen before we move on. Who do I see being a World Cup game changer? Who do I see having better impact at international level? Ethan Nwaneri over Jared Bowen every day of the week.
You got to put respect on Bowen's name, man.
I like Jared Bowen. He's a very good player for West Ham. We're talking a different
has he ever played in a proper possession system? That's my worry there. I think there's way more similarities between Arsenal's attacking play and what England are going to do under Tuchel. But like also Bowen, I think another thing that's in his favour is that he can play at centre forward. But I don't know. I think we've got one backup centre forward, and that's fine personally.
Okay, let's talk left wing. This is something that I really wanted to talk about. In that international football for me is not always about picking the best players. It's about picking players that work well in international football. International football, I think, is much slower than club football, and you need width. You need players that are going to stretch the pitch. So many of England's problems last year in the Euros were caused by really condensed players, all wanting to get in the ball, no one running in behind. My left wing options are all concerned with running in behind. I've gone with Anthony Gordon, who I think should start, even though if you're talking individual talent level of some of the forwards we've mentioned, I don't think he's there. But in terms of,
I think he's he's kind of the just below. But like, I didn't realize he'd more shot. More goal creating actions than anyone else in the league last year. Like he is pretty amazing actually.
He is good. He is very good. But I mean, if you're comparing him to,
he's not Saka.
We've talked about Palmer and Saka and Bellingham and players like this. Like, I don't think he's on that plane yet. But fair play, he's had a great season this year. Was very good last year as well. Wildcard option as his backup, I've left Rashford. I've gone with Jamie Gittens of
Okay,
Dortmund,
I was considering Gittens actually.
who I
but didn't
actually
quite make
think
it.
deserves a little bit more respect for what he's done this season. 11 goals and 4 assists for a really, really poor Dortmund side that have struggled throughout this entire season. And he scored in big games. He scored against Real Madrid. He scored against Bayern. He scored against Leverkusen. He scored against Gladbach. He has dipped off in the last couple of months, for sure. He hasn't scored for over 2 months. But some of the goals that he has scored this season suggest a player that is only 20 right now and could be really, really special at 22, 23. And I think he won't feature a lot in this side, to be honest, because even though he would be picked on the left wing, if Gordon got injured, I think Tuchel would probably revert to, say, if we're playing a Rodgers or a Foden or someone like that. But I think it would be so good to give him tournament experience right now and let this guy, hopefully by next summer as well, he'll be back in the Premier League, or at least, playing for a better side than Dortmund. And I think he could really explode over, particularly next season. I mean, he's already in the midst of it this year. So he was my backup left wing. Who was yours, Oba?
So I've gone Anthony Gordon. I've not really gone backup or starting. I've just gone the 2 options are Anthony Gordon and Marcus Rashford.
How satisfying for you has it been to watch Rashford, and anyone really? I think it's been great. Watch him just get back to his best at Villa.
He just seems happy again, man. He seems happy, and everyone kind of knew that's what he needed. Just needs to be in an environment where a manager trusted in his ability, that he trusted in. Get out of the noise. Obviously, he played for Manchester United for so many years. He's been there since he was a kid, but it'd been so toxic for him that even when he was having all right games, there was still other things that were being highlighted. Whereas now, even when he's not scoring, but he's getting key assists and he's taking on his man, the fact that Aston Villa fans are getting behind him, you can see that his teammates appreciate what he does. And now he's back in the England squad. He's like a lot of these players in this generation need kind of what's the word, like not even compassion, but it's like it's different
like
to the
positive
older
reinforcement.
Yeah, you need they need that type of energy around them for them to perform at that level. And Rashford's clearly benefiting from that. That's why I think if he stays in this type of environment, don't know if he's going to stay at Aston Villa or not. If he does, there's no way he's not on that plane in it.
Yeah.
Because the quality that he has shown for England and in the years that he's been a professional is levels above. You talk about the quality that Gordon has. He's getting to a level that I think Rashford has already proven he's there. Do you know what I mean? So I think you need someone that has that X factor that Thomas Tuchel can get the best out of. And I think the way Tuchel gets his arm around players, if he does that to Rashford, it is a wrap, bro.
I also think we've talked a lot about experience and not picking Jordan Henderson and Maguire, etc. We need to look at how few goals there are in this side compared to previous generations. Like Kane's on 69, that's 16 more than Rooney. England's next top goal scorer of current players is Sterling on 20. And he's not going to get picked. Then it's Rashford on 17. That is it. Then Saka's, I think, on 14.
Maguire's probably up there.
Maguire is not far off. There has been a real paucity of players that have consistently scored for England and had big moments for England. And Rashford has definitely had that. But unfortunately, I went with Gittens on this occasion.
That's why it just doesn't make sense. You said you've gone for a wild card on the right side and on the left side.
Next gen, man.
That's quite that's quite a lot to have 2 wild cards in the forward line.
And
I think I would pick Nwaneri over Gittens personally.
Yeah.
See, I hear that,
but maybe that's just our bias. Maybe that's just our Premier League bias, though. Like Jamie Gittens has been he's been in this Dortmund setup for quite a long time now, and I do worry that if Gittens misses out on tournament after tournament, when is his chance in an England shirt? And I do it goes back to it's like Tomori. I know he's not had a great season at Milan, but his chance for England just never came, even when he was playing really well. And I do feel for English players playing abroad because so many times they get overlooked. It's only really Bellingham who has been able to move abroad, and by the time he moved, when he was at Dortmund was when he got his England chance. But that's basically the exception to the rule.
They're also very similar players in terms of neither are super creative, but in terms of cutting in on that from that left wing onto their right foot, bending it top corner. The best of Rashford looks quite similar to the best of Gittens. Gittens has already scored Rashford-esque goals.
That's why you have to have Gordon starting, because I think him and Saka both amazing creators and can score.
I think From what obviously
You'd have
I
Rashford starting over
I know
Gordon.
Thomas Tuchel in it, like, personally.
over
I know
Gordon.
Thomas Tuchel in it, like, personally. Like, do you know what I mean? That's my guy.
Did you actually meet?
Obviously.
Did you
Yeah,
ever meet him?
I
Did you?
met
What's
him.
that name? I can't remember.
But you can tell, okay, cool, he's got an 18-month contract, right? He needs to win now.
True.
He's
Yeah,
not
yeah.
got the,
Oh yeah, he's brought in to win the World Cup.
He's not coming to give man opportunities just for the sake of, and that's why people are complaining, oh, what's the FA done? They've kind of ruined, the pathway. But they want to win, and they know that they've got a crop of players to do so. And I believe when they look at the crop of players and those players at their top level, Rashford is one of them. Yeah. So I think Rashford, if he's at the level that he's showing now, because I don't even think that he's really back to his full peak. I think he's just building in confidence. But if he gets back to that level, he's starting for England at that World Cup.
Has he ever started for England?
Sure.
Imagine having this
I guess he did a bit at the
conversation at
2022 World
start
Cup.
of January.
But
Rashford would have as big a chance of getting onto this plane as Grealish would a couple of months ago. It just shows how quickly things can change in 2 months.
Sure.
And we've got 15 months to the World Cup. Who knows what situation these players will be in? But yeah, I can see the argument for Rashford.
I was even saying last year that Rashford should have still gone to the Euros though. I think that you don't, like, with the experience thing and the X factor, you need those type of forwards. And like you said, bro, it's Kane, Sterling, and then Rashford. The other players are not bagging for England. You need players that can.
Who have we got? I've gone with as the backup to Kane up front. I've just stuck with Ollie Watkins.
Me
by the
too.
way,
Yeah,
anything different?
I put Solanke, but I'm down with Watkins.
I just think Watkins' scoring record is just still ridiculous. Even in the season in which he's been a bit more inconsistent, he's got 13 goals.
Yeah, I think Watkins is a shout.
And you can't, the Netherlands goal. You can't.
And he offers something different to Kane, and I think Solanke is more of a Kane.
He is a bit more. Solanke needs. Or I think actually under Tuchel, England could be more suited to Solanke because there'll be a lot more like coming in and cutting back, and he's great at doing that. But I feel like Watkins can do that as well.
I pick 3 strikers.
Really?
Yeah, which is a little bit on reflection. You make a very good point about we're picking Tuchel's squad, and I don't think he's probably looking to the future. But you do look at England strikers under the age of 27, 28. There's really not a lot. There's really not a lot. If you go 25 and under, it is Liam Delap, Nketiah, Jay Stansfield. Like there really isn't.
Balling out though.
But like Adam Armstrong's just over 27, Calvert-Lewin, Tammy Abraham. None of these players have quite turned into. I don't mean to be rude, but like quite turned into the players we expected them to, maybe. So I wanted to pick Liam Delap as a sort of tourist.
You've got
Another
3
wild
wild
card.
cards in the forward line.
I'm a wild
That's
man.
that's crazy. That is just too. That's way too much.
But I also
Way too
have
much.
Foden chosen as a midfielder, who will probably play a lot as well. And then you've got Bellingham, who can play as a 10. Like, it was a little bit wild, but then there are always 3 players.
I don't know how you've managed to. I don't know how you've managed to have 23 men in the squad.
Yeah, it feels like
It was a very thin midfield.
Very
Just
thin
6
midfield.
men.
But you still managed to get Curtis Jones in there as well. So you dropped Cobby.
Yeah.
I think let's just do this forward. Let's get this forward line out of the way and then see how many we've
I'm
got
happy
for the
to
midfield.
concede Delap.
Yeah, I don't think we can have Delap
Should
in
we
there,
do
I'm
Kane or
afraid.
Watkins?
Kane or Watkins, yeah.
Saka, and then the big call was Bowen or Nwaneri. Given the fact Saka has up until now, a really good injury record, shall we go Nwaneri?
I would like Nwaneri, but I think that means that Gittens can't. I would vote.
I give my.
I really like Eze. I think Eze is a real difference maker, and I think Eze in tight spaces is better than Rashford. I would rather.
He goals.
We've got Harry Kane. We've got Harry Kane up top. We've got Cole Palmer behind him.
Harry Kane wasn't doing enough but Harry Kane's a quality striker, yeah, but he's actually aging to a certain extent. We need.
We do have goals
pace around him, and we need goals from our wide men, and we're gonna get that from.
Eze's got pace and he's got goals. And Cole Palmer his goal record this year is amazing.
Picking Eze and Foden and Palmer, there's too many similarities.
Yeah. Okay. I'll concede. I think Foden edges it over Eze.
So Foden's just here, or he's going to be in the midfield conversation.
Maybe midfield conversation, whatever. Because Eze was kind of in that conversation.
Gordon and Rashford.
Let's do Gordon Rashford. Yeah.
Okay, and Nwaneri, Saka, Watkins, Kane.
So it's just 6 forwards. Yeah.
Jared's going to.
Then I think we've got 7 midfielders available.
7 midfielders. Okay,
And I
that
think
suits me.
we're all agreed with Bellingham, Palmer, Rice.
Yeah,
I think we all agreed on Wharton.
yeah.
So there's 3 spots. And the names in contention are Jones, Foden, Gallagher, Rodgers, Mainoo. Have I left anyone out of that?
I think that's about it.
I think
yeah,
that's about it.
I think one of Cobby or Jones at least has to be there. I think one of those two has to be there.
At the moment, I'd give it to. I mean, I know Mainoo's injured, but I'd give it to Jones.
It has to be Cobby, man. The way he broke into the United squad, is one thing, because we talk about the United environment. He was literally a breath of fresh air and literally liberated them. Then he came into the England squad and also added control and stability to a side that looked like it was struggling with that. Off of that alone, yes, he's injured. He needs to be in the squad, bro. He has to be in the squad.
Okay, over Jones.
And
I still think that's a big call.
But then there's one. I mean, we could have both of them though, and then that would leave one more space, right?
I don't think we've confirmed Foden. I think it'd be nuts.
I think we've got to confirm Foden.
It's 2 against 1.
Yeah,
so
I think we have to.
that.
And then I think you guys made a very good case for Rodgers as well.
Rodgers has to be.
But then we
in.
need a deeper midfielder as well. And I don't think you can take Mainoo and Jones.
But Wharton's about.
I still think we need more.
I think there's no other deep like
Unless
who's
you're playing
the
Bellingham.
No, but so
Bellingham
but exactly that's what we're hoping though. Jude to drop a little bit
but
deeper.
it's still a bit risky. So then
Tuchel wants more control. Like Tuchel will want control,
but he's not going to get control from Conor Gallagher.
I just don't know where Rodgers plays in this. Like where he's not going to be
backup for the 10.
what the third backup after
We've already got
Foden.
Yeah, but then he could be the backup for the Jude.
We've already got
Also Nwaneri could be a backup as well in that number 10 as well.
Come on, guys. Come on.
It's so difficult.
Rodgers has to be in this squad. He has to be in this squad. From what he's doing for the last 2 seasons.
We did assign you as manager, so we do kind of.
No, but I want you, man, to agree. I don't want you to just say it because it's me saying it. Rodgers, if we're talking about X factor from midfield coming off the bench, similar to how Palmer did it for the Euros. You can't tell me there's another midfielder that we're mentioning that you think is going to have that wow factor.
I just don't know where he comes on. Like, does he come on for Bellingham on 80 minutes or something?
Yes.
Do you think?
And he will bag.
What as a number 8
or something?
Yes.
Rodgers off the bench does have a nice ring to it, actually. One to speed up the play.
Rodgers
one to
would
finish.
be incredible.
Okay, so we're going super attacking here. We're having Rodgers and Foden in this squad.
Yeah.
And then what? Just like
I
Jones.
Think no.
I honestly don't. I think if you have Rodgers in there, you can't have Mainoo. That's my thinking, because Mainoo is really excels more in the final third. Jones is way more of a do it all midfielder. Like Mainoo is less of that. I think. So I think if you want to have Rodgers in there, then you have to sacrifice Mainoo. Sadly, I don't really want to do that. But I just don't like. Otherwise, it's like Rice, Wharton, and they're the only proper deep lying midfielders. Bellingham.
Why do we need 3?
Because we're going to be playing a 4-2-3-1 potentially.
4-2-3-1 or a 4-3-3. He's not going to play 2 10s. It's going to be 2 deep lying and 1 10.
Yeah, but then but that's what I'm saying. Jude could drop back. Cobby can drop back.
Sure, but I think you need more cover than just the
no, but Rice could do that on his ones anyway. So if
he didn't at the Euros.
No, but if we're saying
4-2-3,
we can actually. You lot are really. I don't know what's happening here, but I feel like you're gonna get your way with the way you want the team to be. Because now I'm starting to feel bad about. So we're having Declan Rice, Jude, Palmer. All 3 are starting. Yeah, that's who we're saying starting. Yeah, ideally.
So Rice is number 1 backup is Wharton.
For Rice?
Wharton.
Cool.
Who's
number
1
backup for Bellingham? Rodgers by your
Rodgers. Yeah.
Okay.
And then
who's your backup for Palmer?
You lot are saying Foden.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you'd prefer that to be Rodgers.
Yeah.
That's where I think that is the core issue here. Okay, and you want Mainoo is just floating around.
Yeah.
I don't mind Lady floating around.
Okay.
If
Jones. Mainoo's in.
Yeah.
Or we could have Jones and Mainoo and no Foden.
Bellingham, Palmer, Rice, Wharton, Foden, Rodgers, Mainoo.
Yeah.
Okay. No Curtis Jones.
No Curtis Jones. No Conor Gallagher or Eze.
No, Conor Gallagher hasn't even made the conversation there.
I'm
quite happy.
I know
that.
you would pick him.
I'm quite happy with that.
All right, it's a tough one. There's got to be I know you.
No, honestly,
I know everyone's going to be going at us in the comments there, but that shows just how hard that midfield is to pick.
Yeah,
I think the attack and defense almost picked themselves a little bit, or at least it was easy to come to a conclusion.
We ain't even mentioned
the midfield is difficult.
I know.
We ain't mentioned the Gibbs-White.
Oh yeah, we haven't. Gibbs-White only just missed out for me. I completely forgot about that. Gibbs-White.
And he just got called up.
Didn't mention Livramento.
Yeah, Livramento
Angel
as well.
Gomez.
I think Adrian Gomez
Rico
is gonna be in
Lewis,
there.
maybe. Don't know. But
Yeah, Rico Lewis in a year's time.
do you want to hear my dream 11? Because I put it out there before I started.
go on.
Pickford, Trent, Stones, Gehi, Hall, Rice, Bellingham, Palmer, Saka, Gordon, Kane.
Yeah, I think it kind of picks itself. I think the only place where I could it's just right back for me. I would potentially have White, but aside from that, I would probably pick.
That's hard,
team.
man. Don't abuse us in the comments because it's very difficult. We're not managers.
Yeah.
You know what I mean, there's going to be abuse regardless.
I also think they're
yeah.
having similar conversations to us, though. That I don't think we were far off. In terms of the composition of midfield, the backups in terms of full-backs and centre-backs.
Also, we're recording this before we've even seen Tuchel's first game. Like, it is a real hypothetical, this.
Yeah.
So, yeah,
I
hope you're entertained
I know
at
Tuchel,
least.
so I'm telling you, you know what I mean? We're going to see Jared Bowen at the World Cup. We're going to see what
send
he's
him
in
a
the
text,
squad.
be like, Tommy, we've got the lowdown dropping Thursday afternoon.
Yeah, he's tearing his hair out right now. Oh my God, what have I done?
Picked the entirely wrong squad. And also, there's so many injuries in this current squad as well. Exactly. It will be very, very different.
Injuries,
But, guys, that was the lowdown for another week. A little bit more chaotic than usual. I think the nature of the topic, but we did get down to a 23-man squad. I'm sure I put it on screen throughout the video, or definitely towards the end, because there's a lot of contentious moments. Guys, thank you so much for watching the lowdown. Remember to like and comment. Let us know about who was your biggest exclusion, etc. in the comments. But be kind.
Please.
Be kind in there. Guys, we'll catch you next week. Bye-bye.
Peace.